The evacuation of embassies is underway. Joint drills that are can-led. One by one, longtime allies are leaving. Silently, rather than with a bang. Silence on purpose. The type that leaves Washington perplexed. Who continues to support us? Why are countries that had relied on U.S. security, weaponry, and assistance forming new partnerships with adversaries out of the blue? Why are defense contracts being sabotaged? And Chinese or Russian aircraft landing where American boots used to be? This goes beyond geopolitics. This is an unexpected betrayal by allies. Because these 10 nations are not merely cruising, stay with us. They are separating on purpose. And you'll be shaken by the reasons. Number 4, Niger. Closing of the American drone base. American soldiers were instructed to leave. Cold diplomatic relations. Previously seen as Washington's most reliable counterterrorism ally in West Africa, it has quickly changed the course. How does a nation move from having one of the biggest American air bases on the continent to expelling American troops completely? Politics is not the only factor in the solution. There is a seismic shift in the balance of power in the world. Is China or Russia at fault? And why is Nigeria suddenly accepting foreign troops with Chinese contracts and Russian equipment who don't understand English? What was different? By whom were the cords pulled? Is this only the initial domino? Since Niger, a country that formerly depended on the U.S. for millions of dollars in aid and security, can leave at any time, what prevents other allies from following suit? More significantly, what action will Washington take? Or is it too late already? Number 3, Mali. American forces stop moving. Now, Russian mercenaries are making the decisions. A government that no longer answers Washington's phone calls. Mali isn't an ally anymore. It is a cautionary tale. How could a nation that previously relied on military support and intelligence from the U.S. suddenly turn to the Kremlin for security? What was missed by the West? More significantly, who will be the next? Access to the Pentagon was lost. The CIA was marginalized. In their location, Russian paramilitary forces rolling into bases that were previously occupied by Americans. Why would Mali jeopardize everything in order to break off relations with the U.S.? Is this a matter of survival or sovereignty? Could other African countries do the same? Please remember to subscribe before we proceed. It enables us to deliver stories to you that are more in-depth, incisive, and illuminating. Because Mali isn't the only one involved. It concerns a worldwide change. And America's alliances are fracturing more quickly than anyone anticipated. Number 8, Burkina Faso. Russian flags flying from military vehicles. French troops were forced to retreat. American sway is rapidly diminishing. The transformation of Burkina Faso from a subdued ally to a geopolitical wildcard has been nothing short of revolutionary. How does a country that formerly accepted U.S. military assistance abruptly begin strengthening relations with China and training with Russian agents? What is taking place on the ground that you aren't seeing in Western media? Foreign bases are not the only issue. Burkina Faso is using Russian cash to construct new military bases. Instead of Washington, seats are now available in Moscow through its scholarship programs. Additionally, its leader pledged a new era of cooperation while standing beside Vladimir Putin in May 2025. Why is that important? Because this isn't a singular change in a remote African region. This is the forefront of a worldwide reorganization. Furthermore, the timing couldn't be worse. Violent extremist organizations are a problem in the area. The economy is tenuous. Rather of depending on American assistance, Burkina Faso is increasing its partnerships with countries that publicly challenge Western domination. Is anti-colonial pride the only thing at play here? Or is there a more significant factor at work, something Washington missed? What occurs if aid stops coming? When the sharing of intelligence ceases. When a nation such as Burkina Faso loses faith in the United States to support it. The most terrifying question of all is this one. If Burkina Faso is successful, its government endures, and it is supported by China and Russia. What message does that convey to Africa as a whole? Because if this is successful, then others will follow suit. Mali, Niger, Guinea. And that silent domino effect might pave the way for a future in which the U.S. is no longer the preferred partner. Also a reminder of the past. Number 1 Central African Republic. The United States cut aid diplomats from the West avoided. Russian private soldiers are essentially in charge of security. The Republic of Central Africa is not simply drifting away from the West. It's running. Additionally, what is happening there might be a sneak peek at something far bigger. Why is a nation that formerly relied so largely on Western aid suddenly permitting Russian mercenaries to protect its presidential residence? Why are important mineral locations that were previously negotiated under Western contracts suddenly under the hands of Chinese companies? The most important query is, why isn't anyone in Washington discussing it? This goes beyond simply giving someone the cold shoulder. This is a purposeful change. President Touadéra and Vladimir Putin inked a comprehensive military and economic agreement at the beginning of 2025. Ensuring Russian security in return for increased access to diamond and gold resources. On paper, it appears to be a lifeline. However, what if the leash is actually quite long? What occurs when a weak country entrusts foreign contractors with dubious intentions with its internal security? What occurs when governmental power is outsourced and public trust is lost? Could a new kind of post-colonial rule be modeled after the Central African Republic? Won by authoritarian rivals rather than by Western countries. Consider it. This is formerly regarded by the West as a humanitarian priority. Support, peacekeeping efforts, and aid totaling billions of dollars poured in. However, as influence wanes, new embassies, trade agreements drafted in Beijing or Moscow, and parades of foreign flags are taking its place. Is this a covert coup masquerading as cooperation? Or is it really a power vacuum being filled? What would happen if this experiment was successful? Does the notion that Western alliances are even required if the Central African Republic gains stability under Russian guidance? Please remember to subscribe before we proceed, because the next nation on this list is bigger, bolder, and even more unexpected. These are the stories they do not want you to hear, and they are spreading quickly. Watched with heart. Now speak from the heart. How did it feel?